Looks like dudes are going to be staying out of women's sports, at least in 2 states, potentially 3. We'll see how this goes, but I've mentioned this a couple of times before, and might as well because we have some new information here today, because there's another state hopping on the women are for women's sports and men are for men's sports bandwagon. I don't know why this should be controversial, but this is 2021 after all. Arkansas governor signed transgender sports ban into law, and this was, yes, back on the 25th, when Arkansas governor, sorry, not Arizona, Doug Ducey wouldn't do anything so bold, Asa Hutchinson on Thursday signed a law banning transgender women and girls from competing in school sports teams consistent with their gender identity, making the state the second to approve such a restriction so far this year. The Republican governor approved the measure despite objection from medical and child welfare groups. Who gives a fuck what they have to say, because they're just staffed with radicals anyways. That it would have devastating impacts on transgender youth. What, both of them? Whatever. Okay, the entire point of going through a transition is to be from one gender to another, okay? Most of the people who complete that transition want to be that gender. They go through all of that trouble. If you're a woman, you chop off your tits, you get your innie turned into an outie, and you want to be a passable dude. Okay? It's not like these assholes that are out here, like the one fucking actor who wants to be referred to a tree. Yeah, that's not a joke. That's a real fucking thing. That's why Hollywood is such AIDS. They want to be what they transition into, okay? Some people call it a mental disorder. Maybe it is. I don't know. All I know is that if somebody is going to go through all that hassle to become a woman or to become a man, fucking whatever, cool. But if you want to do combat sports, if you want to do any sort of physically athletic endeavor, I don't know. There's a conversation to be had as to what the limitation should be. And I don't think that at this point in time, there's any proof or any consensus that this would be the best thing for women's sports. And at least the Arkansas governor agrees with this. And I guess the Congress itself. This law simply says that female athletes should not have to compete in a sport against a student of the male sex with or when the sport is designed for women's competition, Hutchison said in a statement released by his office. As I have stated previously, I agree with the intention of this law. This will help promote and maintain fairness in women's sporting events. Republicans in at least 20 state legislatures have been pushing for similar bans this year. Mississippi governor signed a prohibition into law earlier this month. Oh, I didn't know about that one, but that's good. Hey, right on. So I guess there's 3 that are on the docket. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem, who we will get to at the end of this. But we also got to say this because today, the 28th, Tennessee becomes the 3rd state requiring student athletes to compete based on biological sex, as it should be. Tennessee became the 3rd state to require student athletes to compete based on their biological sex. The state's Republican Governor Bill Lee, who I know people have problems with, and the fact that he locked down his state because of the coof for so long is chief among those concerns, but a broken clock can be right twice a day. Signed the legislation into law on Friday, joining Mississippi and Arkansas in protecting girls' sports. I signed the bill to preserve women's athletics and ensure fair competition, Bill Lee said on Twitter, where all the hot takes happen. This legislation responds to damaging federal policies that stand in opposition to the years of progress made under Title IX, and I commend members of the General Assembly for their bipartisan work. I do as well, Bill. Congratulations. And what you can see there, no references to the NCAA being a big, scary institution I don't want to fight against. And these aren't insignificant states, okay? Think what you want about Arkansas, Mississippi, but Tennessee, now we're talking, okay? And they hopped on the bandwagon. Obviously, Mississippi started this rolling. Arkansas had the balls as well, and they know to stay and compete in the men's division. And it's great to see, okay? They aren't chicken shits. They aren't just trying to set up lobbying groups so that they'll always have something to do. Oh, we'll fight against that mean legislation into the future because we have this wonderful fucking lobby group. Not to mention that your benefactors or your bankrollers aren't too terribly happy about you signing legislation to ban this, but it looks like the Speaker of the House is actually going to stand up, and the state legislature in South Dakota is not too terribly happy about the rubber spine of Kristi Noem. South Dakota House Speaker to reject Governor Kristi Noem's request to rework bill on transgender athletes. Listen, bitch, sign it or don't. either come out as a full turncoat or back the overwhelming support of your constituency. The battle over legislation in South Dakota to prevent biological men from competing against biological women in school sports will come to a head on Veto Day, which takes place on Monday. Also, the last day of the state's legislation session. And now, House Speaker Spencer Gorsh, a Republican, you don't say, announced he would recommend lawmakers reject Governor Kristi Noem's controversial stance to not veto House Bill 1217, but to ask for revisions to it, including removing the language to eliminate the ban on collegiate sports and removing the requirement for birth certificate sex to be proven annually. Unnecessary bureaucracy. It's so stupid. We covered it earlier. I will be recommending that the House of Representatives rejects Governor Kristi Noem's proposal as unconstitutional. Interesting. According to the state's government websites, there are protocols for style and form vetoes, which she is claiming requires the revisions for. The governor may strike any items of any bill passed in the legislature making appropriations. The procedure for reconsidering items struck by the governor shall be the same as prescribed for the passage of the bills over executive veto. All items not struck shall become law as provided herein. Bills with errors in style or form may be returned to the legislature by the governor with specific recommendations for change. Bills returned shall be treated in the same manner as vetoed bills, except that specific recommendations for change as a style or form may be approved by a majority vote all members of each house. If the governor certifies that the bill conforms with the governor's specific recommendations, the bill shall become law. If the governor fails to certify the bill, it shall be returned to the legislature as a vetoed bill. Interesting, right? To me, that sounds like a get out of jail free card. One of those things where, you know what, the language is either too vague or there's a word in there that I don't like. If you guys can just go ahead and we'll just continue to kick this down the road. It's one of those things, like whenever a court, let's just say a couple of courts decided that, we can't take this up, lack of standing, latches. One of those things where a governor who's, just kind of being a little chicken shit on an issue can go ahead and cite this and continue to just kind of push it off into the future, and hopefully somebody will just forget about it and maybe somebody else will deal with it. And I don't know, it's just become plain as day. 3 other governors, okay, who have the exact same bills passed through their houses that they've signed into law. But yet, you're making up different terms in which you're going to sign this overwhelmingly popular bill into law. I don't get it. I don't get it. And a lot of people that supported her for as recently as a month ago don't get it either. Like I said, this is the first blot on her record. Up to this point, as far as I know, since she's taken the spotlight from being extremely good on lockdowns, unlike Bill Lee, everything has been, relatively fine, okay? A lot of support for her to run in 2024, 2028, once her terms are up. For president, hey, it was overwhelmingly popular. I don't know what this has done to her numbers, but I couldn't imagine that it's any sort of a glowing endorsement. And, of course, if she decides that, this was probably a bad idea, signs it into law, guess what? You can move on from this, but there's always going to be that little bit of doubt in the back of people's minds that, she's probably going to cave on some very tough issues. And this one isn't even tough. There's overwhelming support for this one, like I've stated continuously, because it warrants mentioning. Everybody's behind this one. It just all comes down to where's the money coming from, and what are their ideologies. And unfortunately, we got a glimpse behind the curtain and not liking what we're seeing. But hail Mississippi, Arkansas, and Tennessee. You guys are doing the good stuff, and I'd imagine there's going to be more states in the very near future signing this as well. And if we hear anything on Monday, make sure and cover it. With that said, guys, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.